Welcome to Exploring Santa Cruz, a bi-weekly program on KSQD Santa Cruz. My name is Matilda Rand, and my guests today are Patrick Williams and later on in the program, Alan Murtha. I visited Patrick Williams twice at his home in Santa Cruz. The first time he took me and my friend on an hour-long tour of his garden on this around 50 by 120 foot lot, where he grows a lot of fruit and vegetables, anything from asparagus to avocado, from citrus fruit to apples, and of course, shiitake. I fully enjoyed tasting the fruit, but also his insight into gardening, farming, and communicating with others about their perspective and learning process in the natural world. We also talked about the time that he worked for 13 and a half years with the Homeless Garden Project. So welcome, Patrick. Today, I'd like to start off talking about what you're presently doing in Watsonville.
I've been working with a small farm called Esperanza Community Farms, which is in Watsonville, and it's located on the land trust area right across from Pajaro Valley High School. It, again, has a CSA format. It provides food for the most part, low-income people, and again has a multifaceted approach. One, it's just simply trying to form a sense of community amongst the people who are working with it, and also providing sustainable, organic food for low-income communities. It's really interesting to see. They have just started their CCOF, or their organic certification, and so there are certain things you can say if it's organic or not, technically, but that being the case, they use sustainable and organic methods. So it's a small program, and I was contacted by a woman by the name of Anna Rasmussen, and she had started a number of community gardens in Watsonville, and then she went on and started Esperanza. And she asked me if I would act as a consultant, and I did consulting with them, and I also did planning for their CSA. Planning for a CSA is quite an elaborate process. It seems very simple on the surface, but if you have to come up with between 8 and 12 vegetables on a weekly basis, varying through the season, it's not easy, especially if you're on a single piece of land, to get that kind of composition and in the proportions of the amount of vegetables you need every week. So I was working with them. They went to ALBA, which is a program down in Salinas that helps train campesinos to become organic farmers. And they interviewed a number of people and came up with a very good candidate to be their principal farmer. Again, it works with providing healthy food in a sustainable format that will help build both food security, because oftentimes people, even if there might be farm workers, don't necessarily have food security by any means. Build food security, I think. And then also it helps develop a sense that they can do it, that they can change lives, change with the way they work, and create a healthier environment and a healthier future, both for themselves and the community.
Esperanza is in existence for how long, and what do you foresee it's going to grow into?
Well, it's actually just been in existence. This is only its second year, but it was very successful this past year, and it came at a perfect time for the community because of the pandemic. There were so many people that were then out of work, and it helped work with those communities. And another thing it does is that they work with the health system, and they emphasize working with families that have young people who either have weight issues and or diabetes. And so it kind of helps them change their eating patterns so that they can improve their health. That is, I think, a very valuable work. They are just tremendously inspiring to be around. I love being around them and going out there and just kind of sharing with them, one, the work, but also what they are doing and how they are doing and what questions they have and what questions I have. Because I think we work better together. We learn better together.
Where do you see them 5 years from now?
They were so successful last year. I think that they will have a stable future, and I see them definitely expanding and being kind of a definite, I don't know if I'm forced in the community, but a well-established farm that will definitely fill a niche that needs to be filled. I just loved working with them, and they are so generous and kind. Most of them come from farm worker backgrounds. So they have these really strong connections and understanding of what this community will really benefit from. Another thing they do is in the planning process for the CSA, they look specifically what is acceptable culturally to that community. They may not be the chervil and kale types. And so you don't plant lots of chervil and kale. You plant things that are culturally appropriate. In the Santa Cruz community, you may not emphasize the use of epazote. Some people might like it, but not everyone's going to eat it.
What's epazote?
Epazote is a Artemisia ambrosioides, which is a very kind of fragrant, and some people say smelly, herb that is used a lot in the preparation of beans, for example, in Central America. We see it, we are just like stumped. What do you do with that? And you just don't do it because when it's raw, it doesn't smell very good, but when it's cooked, it's delightful.
I would like to switch to what you're doing in South America, because you're doing something there that might be similar or might be different, but it's always reaching out to people and working with people on the land, and in that communication establish something good for both nature as well as people. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. I bought a farm a few years ago now. It's in Colombia, in the country of Colombia, south of the city of Medellin, in a town called Jericho. It's in basically the heart of the coffee country there. And so there's pretty much a monoculture of coffee in the region. And so when you have any monoculture, problems arise. We decided to do something different. And so we had not a very large piece of land, it's about 2 acres, but you can do quite a bit. And so we have gone into the production of vegetables and fruits. The fruits we grow are things that are appropriate. It's kind of cool tropic, so we grow bananas, pineapples, guavas, passion fruit, citrus of various kinds, and we also grow avocados. And so those are the primary fruits that we grow. And of course, a few melons. And we're going to look around for other things to add into that. And the vegetables are primarily everyday garden vegetables. Now, you don't want to try to kind of change people's approach to food. One, because you want to be culturally sensitive, and then also you have to realize that it's not very successful. It's not a very successful approach. It's important to be culturally sensitive to people's approach to food. So I learned that very directly when I lived in the Dominican Republic. I worked in the Dominican Republic for a number of years with a project, a small nonprofit, that was a training program for youth in agriculture. So after people left high school, they would come and work for 2 years and get 2 years of training in sustainable agricultural techniques. And we would introduce vegetables, and some were more successful than others. Basically, they had no vegetables. They did like onions, they did like cabbage, and they did like tomatoes, and they did like chayotes, and that was pretty much it. And so you have to take people from where they are. And so we tried to just kind of introduce things that were easily acceptable to them, that they would feel comfortable eating. I worked there actually for close to 3 years on and off. And then at the end of that 3 years, I left. And I came back approximately 10 years later. When I left, I thought, oh dear, we haven't had much success here. But when I returned, some of my students, I was really so pleased and happy, had gone on in that field, and some were then teaching sustainable agricultural techniques in other nonprofits, or had small farms of their own. And in the community, many people had started vegetable gardens, which nobody had previous. And so I thought it was a very positive thing, because it was all, again, directed towards people's health.
So that was
in the Dominican Republic, yes. Up on the border of Haiti. It was a really fascinating place. I really loved working there. So we were back on my farm in Colombia. 9 years ago, I went to Colombia to visit a friend there, and he said, oh, let's travel around. So we traveled around a bit, And this fellow, I'd run into him because he was taking a class at a language institute, and I'd taken this same class. And he was this young fellow, and he asked me if I wanted to go traveling with him because his landlord had offered to take him on a tour of the region, which was wonderful. And of course, being a very good Colombian young man, his landlord brought his mother along. So my friend, who actually was from Berkeley, and this man from Colombia and his mother, we all traveled around the department of Antioquia, which is kind of in the heart of Colombia, and we went to various places. One place we went, and the reason we went to this place was because she, as a child, had had a friend who had many years later moved to this little town and had started a coffee farm with her husband. I would have never gone there otherwise. Almost no foreign tourists went there at that time, and so that was in Jericho. Anyway, I was looking around eventually, many years later, just a few years ago, to actually look and buy a place in the region. And then I looked at a number of towns and I thought, I'll go back to take a look again at Jericho. One reason I kind of dismissed it is because it was just too beautiful. It was just too idyllic. And I was kind of thinking, maybe something just a little bit more gritty than this. But I came back, found this place, and was able to buy it. And so I bought this small farm with a house, only 5 minutes walk outside of the edge of town, and started this farm. I then employed a young couple. The young man had family lived just a few hundred yards away, and they had both enrolled in a program to study animal husbandry at the National College of Agriculture in Medellin. And so, but after working with me for a while, they actually changed their major and decided to work in sustainable agricultural production. And they have been there ever since and have just done a remarkable job, because not only do they produce healthy fruits and vegetables, which is very important, but they both sell those in the farmers market, they sell them to community members, and they sell them to restaurants. And so it has kind of broadened the horizons of the community of vegetable possibilities, what they can incorporate into their diet. And generally, the more diverse your diet is, the healthier it is. And so they have been just so successful. I am just so proud of these people, the things that they have done. They have received a commendation from the college where they had been studying, lauding them for just the work they had done. I talked to them a few months ago, and one of their professors had come out to see them on the property, and he told them that he had been thinking of retiring. And he had thinking of retiring, but after seeing the work they had been doing and speaking with them, he had decided to carry on teaching, which I found very impressive. So in addition to that, they had on the local TV station, had a couple of TV programs on this farm, and then also on the national television station, one of the primary channels in the country, they have also had a couple of more interviews. So it has gone kind of much larger. And they also now actually have a program again on the local television station of introducing people to vegetables. So what they do is they show people how to grow a vegetable, and then they go into the kitchen and they show people how to cook it, which is really a great thing, because you get people to really say, yes, I can do this. Another thing that we do there, we do a number of other things, is that, of course, we grow and sell these vegetables. We also donate vegetables there's a home for seniors in the community, and we donate produce to the home for seniors, which is a good thing. And they have gotten some very positive attention from the city administration on that.
You're listening to KSQD Santa Cruz, and the program is Exploring Santa Cruz. My name is Matilda Rand, and I'm speaking with Patrick Williams about his farm in Colombia. Patrick, does this farm also have a training program?
Yes, there actually is at our farm. We actually have a training program, and we accept apprentices. So they've had some apprentices from that farm, which is very good. And now we're accepting a new one. Usually they come for a 6-month period. They come from the university system, and they stay and study for 6 months with the farm. And so that's one of the reasons I think that they got the commendation from the college system there. So it is a great program. We have expanded. We've built a greenhouse there, and not only are we growing vegetables for sale and fruit for sale and flowers also, but are now producing seedlings. So people can have small seedlings of vegetables because no one was doing that in the past, and now people are able to grow vegetables in their yards or in their gardens. They don't have yards like we do, but in their gardens, which makes it so much easier because many people do not have the skill or the ability to start seeds effectively. So they get at a reasonable price. We will sell them vegetable seedlings, which has really been a boon for the community.
Then the logical question for you then is, what's your role?
Well, my role right now, it's been rather peripheral because of COVID. I haven't been able to be down there, but I would help them plan their annual schedule, plant cropping schedule, and help troubleshoot when they had problems with diseases or pests. Because on the property, we use absolutely zero chemical fertilizers, zero pesticides, and zero insecticides. We do not kill anything. There's no killing on the project. If there's insects, what we try to do is, if they are causing damage with a crop, what we try to do is have a balance of crops. So if we're losing some of a particular variety, then we have other things to fill in. And we're learning little by little by little how you can do that and live more in harmony with the environment.
I'm quiet. That is remarkable, especially on a larger scale. I mean, larger scale, 2 acres, but still it's a larger scale. Are you involved with the training program?
Well, yes. When I'm there, I definitely am involved in that. I basically let them take the apprentices on, but I definitely give them advice, and I help them with any issues that come up with them. I also provide a small stipend for the couple that live on the property so that they can feel economically secure, so they don't just have to sell everything that they possibly can to make a living, and they cannot do anything else. What I try to do is provide enough so that they have a cushion, so that they can carry on not only production for the community, which is important, but also so that they can feel like they can continue investigating and studying and learning, so that they have a broader view of nature and of agriculture.
So for the longest time I've been thinking, what title would I give you? Are you a gardener? We're sitting here in your garden, you're drinking tea, and I'm enjoying the sun and looking at the gooseberries that look very delicious. Or are you a farmer, a small-scale farmer? Are you an educator? But you definitely have many hats on. And talking about many hats, I also understand that you're involved with something is called the Welcoming Committee. And probably based on your background in working with lots of people and understanding the need for a niche for people, maybe that got you involved in the Welcoming Committee. But maybe first tell us, what is the Welcoming Committee and what does it entail?
The Santa Cruz Welcoming Committee works with people who are refugees and asylum seekers coming to this region. What they do is they try to find housing for people, and they try to fill the other needs that they have at that time. Maybe food, or getting to doctor's appointments, or going to ICE hearings. That's always a difficult one, being it because those are always in San Francisco. It's a long ways. And seeing that they have what they need to be successful and to be able to proceed and hopefully get a more legal status in the area. I'm hosting a young man from Russia who, for various reasons, political reasons, he left Russia. He had never been out of Russia before. 20 years old, because of the situation he had been in. He had gotten on a plane, flown to Mexico, got off the plane, and then crossed the border, and was thrown in ICE detention for 7 months, and then only after 7 months was able to get out of detention, which was very good. And he has come and stayed at my house for a number of months now. And that's been an excellent thing. But other people in the Welcoming Committee process most of them are from Central America. They might be from Nicaragua. There's one couple who are coming from Cuba at the moment. So Cuba, Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and someone from Mexico. They always want help. The welcoming community can always use some assistance. So if you're donations or they can help drive people somewhere or something, it's a really satisfying thing and enriching thing, both to the people you're helping, but also to yourselves.
How did you learn about the welcoming committee? And how did you get this particular person who is living at your house right now? And how do other people get to be involved?
I got involved because I know a woman who's basically the head of the committee, and I had worked with her brother. After I left studying with Chadwick, I had been hired by Peace Corps to be a trainer there. And so it was when I had been there, that's when I got this connection with the woman who is the head of the welcoming committee. So what can people do to get involved? You can just go online, look for Santa Cruz Welcoming Committee. They have a website, and you can contact them, and they need donations of money, which is a good thing. Housing, if that's possible, that's one of the most difficult things, but also things to rides to places or help with getting cellular telephone or a computer or something so they can continue learning and doing things.
Is there a training program? Is there a way of people with specific skills who could then be part of that to help the refugees and asylum seekers find a niche? Because there's one thing, if you feel that you belong, you thrive. And so I'm looking for what else is the Welcoming Committee or the people in it doing to help people find that niche.
Well, of course, they interview the prospective person who is coming to the community, and they then, amongst themselves, see who can do what. They don't have a training or anything. It's just a group of concerned people in the community who say, we can do something. We all have skills, and we all have the possibility to help in some way. And so they just go from there, and they discuss and decide who can do what, when, and how. So it's not actually, there's no training involved. You just call them up, they'll talk with you, and they'll get you involved.
Just a question to round up our communication here. Is your person involved with what you're doing?
Well, the young man who's come to my house is from Russia, and he'd lived on the 5th floor of an apartment building his entire life, and had no contact with anything outside. And so he is a little bit slow at working his way out into the garden because it's so new to him and so different that it's hard for him to understand. But that is completely fine. I'm just happy that he has a safe place to stay, that he can continue studying English, and that he can work towards getting a status where he can stay in this country.
We also have with us Ellen Murtha from the Welcoming Network. I said Welcoming Committee, but it is the Welcoming Network. She has been listening to what Patrick said about it, and I'd like to ask her if she can give us a little bit more background about the Welcoming Network and how people can get involved.
I want to say Patrick is just one of our heroes because opening your home essentially to a stranger takes a lot of faith and courage and humanity. And he has done this for several months. Housing, of course, as he said, is so essential for people that are coming here, fleeing violence or persecution from their home country, wanting to become citizens here in our country. The Welcoming Network is just providing that platform for them to start their immigration process. We have been around for a couple of years now. It's a group of volunteers. It's all volunteer. And all of the funds that we raise go directly to serving individuals and families that are asylum seekers and refugees. We are working with 7 groups now, so it's continuing to expand. We started out just recognizing how really horrible the situation was under the last administration, where people were being stopped at our southern border and their children were being taken from them, and they were sent back into Mexico. One of the people that I'm on the team with had her children removed from her. She wasn't allowed into the country. She was actually kidnapped then and held for ransom in Mexico. Her uncle paid the ransom, and she was able to cross over. When the administration changed, she was able to come up to Santa Cruz, where she had an uncle who could house her She was reunited with her sons, which was wonderful. But it was a small trailer. Her uncle was a caretaker on a piece of property, and there wasn't enough room. There was actually already another family there with him. And so her biggest need was housing. And I have to say, a wonderful, amazing group of people that are connected to us, that are part of a church group, were able to locate a house that was willing to have shared housing. So she and her two sons are living on the bottom floor of a house, and the homeowner lives upstairs. And once people get housed, then our volunteers can start connecting them to really essential services. The first thing they needed was medical care. This woman had a medical condition, and the ankle monitor she was wearing was causing an open sore on her ankle, and she needed care. And one of our volunteers connected her to health benefits, and another person connected her sons to the public education. Because they were fleeing violence and asylum seekers, they were able to get into school with no red tape. And because she had a home and her sons were in school, another one of our volunteers was able to write a letter to ICE to explain she was no longer a flight risk and she didn't need the ankle monitor anymore, and that was removed. That's the kind of thing volunteers can do.
That is amazing. I'm speechless right now. For the people themselves, but also for us, it is a good learning experience.
We all take for granted the many privileges and rights that we have here in this country. It's shocking to learn what people have to live with. And really, if you want to help, all you need to do is email us at santacruzwelcome@gmail.com. santacruzwelcome@gmail.com.
And the website is santacruzwelcomingnetwork.com. In this and the previous program, we went around the world with Patrick Williams. We heard about his work at development agencies with various nonprofits and the Homeless Garden Project for 13 and a half years in Santa Cruz. We also visited him at his garden at his home at a regular city lot in Santa Cruz, where he grows vegetables and some fruit we never heard of. And of course his participation in the Welcoming Network. We saw that he has a unique approach to working with nature and with people. Patrick, any final words?
Well, I just think that we can all do something. I just do the little tiny bit that I can do, I do. And so I think it's all important to create a better world. We can all do something. We don't have to save the world. We just have to save a little tiny bit.
This concludes our second program with our guest, Patrick Williams, and in our second part also with Ellen Murtha from the Welcoming Network. In our first program, we also welcomed Randa Salek. You can hear both programs again on ksqd.org/exploring-santa-cruz. And of course, if you're listening live, tune in again in 2 weeks for the next program of Exploring Santa Cruz on KSQD Santa Cruz.